Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone there at Kardec Radio. How is everybody doing today? We are doing fantastic here. It is Sunday, a little cloudy outside, but it's still 8:30 in the morning, so you never know. Things might change. I am just reaching here for my um, sharing button. Again, as I usually do, I like to share anything that's a good thing, and anything that I learn, I like to try and share it with others. So just give me 1 second and I will be sharing this to my own profile here. Share. Again, I'm so sorry because every time that I do this, I somehow it doesn't come out the way I want. And I'm going to, oh my goodness, maybe I won't share after all, huh? Right post. Okay, all right, done, shared. So anyway, good morning. Good morning, Livia. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Marilda. You guys are all here right on time. And there are others as well that I don't see the name. But let's start with what matters. Today's our last week of Morning Coffee for the Soul with the topic of the, 13 virtues that comes from Ben Franklin. So this is the last of 13 weeks. And we've done a lot of projects. Last year, we did just about every single week, we did a different topic. And this year, I decided to do differently. So we did the 12 steps of the Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps they do. And I kind of, each step, I brought it up with how we can introduce that to depression and anxiety and get out of that state of mind. And then I decided Kardec, Ben Franklin, so the 13 virtues. So after this week, I'm going to give it a break and I'm going to think of a different project. I'm going to think of a different thing to do on a weekly basis, and we'll come back most likely over the summer. Okay? So, anyway, Ben Franklin, he devised these 13 virtues that he chose, and we could think of our own 13 virtues. We can think of our own, what is important to us? What are the virtues that we would like to get ourselves checked at the end of the day, at the end of the week? And after that, see how we're doing, kind of do a self analysis and see, wow, this is something that I really need to work on. This is something that I think I'm doing fine. This is something that I need a little help with. And these are great things because Ben Franklin never said that these 13 virtues were virtues that he mastered, that these 13 virtues were, people think, oh, Ben Franklin, well, he mastered all those 13 virtues. No, he didn't. He actually got better at it as he did this self analysis on them. So that's why he suggested for all of us to do. Today, we're going to talk about humility. This is the last one. And it's interesting because it says that if you did all 12 prior, and they're all here in Kardec Radio, if you did all the 12 and then you got to the 13th and you started boasting about it, then even the 13th, then you really failed because the last one is about humility and how easy of us to always, not pay attention and start boasting about our accomplishments, boasting about how much better we are than others, and not even on a conscience level. But a lot of times we do it without noticing. Um, we constantly have this need to compare ourselves to others, which is not good. Sometimes mothers compare their children right in front of them. Look at what your brother did and you didn't, or look how awful you did, and your brother can always do better, and all kinds of stuff. And it's very, very harmful to any kind of children to hear this comparison all the time. This is you know, various psychological studies show how we really shouldn't be comparing our children one another because they're not their brothers, they're not their sisters, they're different, they need different attention. Sometimes we see mothers saying, oh, I treat all my children exactly the same. And that's also another mistake because they're not the same and they do need to be treated differently. Some children need a little more energy. Some children will need more caring. Other children are more independent, so you got to give them a little more for them to grow even more with that virtue. So we have to look at our friends as well, at our spouses, at people that we live with. And it's really important for us to discover people's virtues. sometimes they're so little, and it's up to us to make them see their own virtue that sometimes they didn't even know that they had, and to enhance that virtue. That is really a point of that Spiritism brings to us. In the gospel, it always tells us that, for us to exalt others and humble ourselves, and for us, and those who exalt themselves will be humbled. And that we talk about the whole reincarnation process on, don't exalt yourself, don't think yourself better, don't behave as if you're better, because there's always there's always room for us to learn in either or. And we don't want to learn the hard way. It's much better to learn from humility. The Gospel, according to Spiritism, chapter 7, talks a lot about humility and pride. And it's interesting because one of the things that it really says is that humility is such a neglected virtue among us. And that phrase really stuck to my head, being that it's coming from the above, from spirits that really care about us. And the gospel is the good news for us to really pay attention and learn from it. And it says that, again, humility is a virtue much neglected among us. Why? Because I guess it makes us see ourselves as the same as our brothers and sisters. And again, we live in a competition in this world. We're always trying to be better. Better than what? Better than others, or better than you? Better than your best version. And that makes all the difference in the world. We live in a competition that we have to be better than our competitor. We have to be better than my brother, my sister. I have to be the best so my boss recognizes me. Um, but the minute that we change that, the minute that we change this necessity to compete with others and be better than others, and we start to really compete with ourselves, that changes the entire world around you, and it changes your world. I know, because it's something that I really aim to do. I try not to look at others and anything that I do. Um, I run a spiritist center in my town. The last thing that I bother is to check the other spiritist centers, how, if I'm doing something better or worse than them, or what they're doing. Or I'd like to keep in check to, I participate amongst just about, I would say, 90% of the spiritual centers that I know in the tri-state area. I'm always going up there to lecture and do all, and I think they're wonderful. And I'm always learning from them and learning what I can do differently, but not in a sense that I'm comparing myself to see if mine is better, that one is better, and what can I do to make myself better. Not really. That really doesn't bother me. Um, and I think that's something that requires a lot of practice, and it requires you to have this look. You're not there to compete with others. You're there to compete with the best that you can be. And that allows you to be humble, because, again, humility is knowing that you're not better than anybody, but you're also not any less than anybody else. And when you give up the idea to compete with others, when you give up the idea to check with others how others are shining and you're not, or how much more glitter you have than others don't, see, you start depending on others. You start taking the focus out of your own work for your own self, and you give this power to exterior things. That's why it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't bother me if the spirit center next door is made of gold and mine is made of um, feather. It really doesn't matter, because I want mine to be made of brick and mortar, right? But from my own self, for the safety of those who are coming in to the place that was given to me to run. So it really does not matter if my competitor, we see this is pride. Why do people get worried if next door, if you have a beauty salon and the beauty salon next door, if somebody says that there's going to be a new beauty salon next door? Some people will try to really lessen the other place. Some people will tell people not to go there because their manicurists, their cosmetologists are awful and they're not registered, and this and that. This is moved by fear and pride. You'll believe that you're better, but deep inside every prideful person, they know that they're less. You see, that's the irony of the thing. Everyone that exalts themselves so much are doing this. And this is psychology 101. You know that your self-confidence is so low that you need to wear this mask. And this is proven on the gospel. If you go to chapter 7, the gospel according to Spiritism, you will see that people are, I'm trying to, I think I have it here, a part where it says exactly that. It's in different words. I have the book next to me. I'll try to read it at the end. But it's really about this mask. And those who are worried too much about the business of others, they are prideful because they want to show how good they are, but they are most of all very fearful because they are afraid others may do better than them. And what if the other one is doing better because they just want to do better for themselves and not because they're comparing it to yourselves? You see how the irony of this? So we only have to worry about us. Um, if I'm good at what I do, I don't have to worry about any kind of competition. If I know what I'm doing, if I'm good at what I do, I don't have to worry about any competitors around me. All I have to do is to do the best that I can do for my own business. But some people will try and they will feel the need to reduce the credibility. They will try to reduce the work of others in order for them to shine, in order for them to appear better. And that is a big mistake because that is not only pride, but that is the entire essence of someone who needs to belittle others in order to feel great. And that is a very big mistake, my friends. And that has everything to do with pride. Now, those who are humble, they do not worry about the happiness of others or the sadness of others or anything of others. They just want to do the best they can and help others. You see the very big difference. Humility is such a virtue. I'm going to tell you what Ben Franklin said about humility since we're talking, and these are Ben Franklin's ideas. This is what he said. He asks you to undersell and overdeliver in everything you do. That's the first part of it. Undersell and overdeliver. Now, this is great because sometimes we say how great. Sometimes I've had someone tell me how great their lecture was going to be. Um, there was this one lecturer at one point that exalted himself so much, and he said that people at the end of their lectures would cry and they would be so touched, and he spoke so well, and this and this and that. So he did the opposite. He actually oversold, but then he underdelivered. You see, when you exalt yourself so much, you create an expectation. And the expectation, which is a mistake, but it ends up becoming a demand. Then people demand that of you. And that is a very dangerous way to live. So Ben Franklin says, undersell. Tell people um, the best that you can do, but don't over color it, and then over deliver. So when Jesus said, when someone asks you to walk with you let's put today's 1 mile, walk two. If they want um, part of your clothing, give that and a hat. um, do the best that you can and then do more. Over deliver. Surprise people with how much love you actually can give. When someone asks you for a favor from the heart and you want to do that, don't tell them what you're going to do and what you can do and who you know and how. Do it, but do it so well that the person will be surprised of how much more you gave. You see, that's part of humility. Ben Franklin said, undersell and over deliver in everything that you do. So that makes you kind of take a step back. That is talking about humility. Take a step back. Don't boast about yourself. Bring it down a little bit, bring it down a notch. And then when it's time, surprise them, amaze them. Second part of it, he says, don't talk about how great you are. Be great and give abundant credit to others. So that's another part. Don't talk about how good you are. And if you're good, people will know. If you really can do what you say you can and you do it, others will know. I'm always afraid when people talk too much about and create great expectations, because there is a whole psychological um, machine behind their actions that is usually used as a self-defense. And then what we do is we over um, hype hype whatever it is, because in reality we're so afraid, and that is a danger, because that's when you go up and then you freeze, you will not deliver at all. So when you don't boast yourself so much, and that is too much responsibility. Think about it, how much weight on your shoulders to just talk and promise and really say how amazing you are. I'm an amazing lecturer. I'm an amazing cook. But think about it. If you say how good your food is, my food beats any restaurant and this, you see, you're boasting about it. You're not saying, I'm a good cook. I know I'm a good cook. That's great. It's great to be confident. Don't don't make the mistake of thinking that you're good at something and saying that you're good at something is the same thing. We're talking about boasting here. We're talking about being prideful, of thinking yourself truly better than others. That's the topic of the day. We're not talking about that you should be confident, you should be selling a good product and saying that your product is good. This is fine. This is what we should aim to do. The problem is when you think that it's better than everybody else. So what we have to be careful is, if I cook, you know what? I can make a mean lasagna. I can make it pretty well. You got to taste it. But the minute that I say, those restaurants have nothing on me, you should really see my lasagna. It's so much better than anybody else. Oh, and you know what? Such and such person, they put too much pepper. Or the other person, I heard that they put ham in lasagna. Who does that? So you see the difference of mine. You have to taste. We even change our tone of voice when we're being prideful. So be careful with that, because the expectations are going to also be very high. And most of the time you're doing that because you're proud or because you're afraid. And in reality, any kind of, um, I guess, any kind of pride is really hiding a mask of fear. And that is in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 7. Read it all, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. I like to bring things with simple language, by the way. I don't like to use, and I usually say, why do people complicate something that's simple? I see sometimes, you know, someone may say, "Oh, Deborah, talk in your terms. You know a lot of psychological terms. Why don't you bring them up?" Why? Why would I do that? Why would I not try to bring it down? Not because people are not more intelligent than I am, because a lot of the viewers here know way more than I do, but because it's just so much easier to talk and understand. You see, try to simplify. I always say some people take something simple, and because they want to appear the appearance of intelligence, they use words that nobody would understand. That the simple, the humble, the normal person would not understand that word. That's a product of pride. Let me speak in a different tone of voice that is not my own. Well, I'm usually imitating someone. That is a sign of pride. Okay. Um, Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 7. Do not go here on the internet. You can just put Gospel according to Spiritism and you see a free copy PDF. Vanessa translated a copy a long time ago here from Kardec Radio. So you can just go on and you see the copy that she was part in translating. So what can I do if I'm proud? What can I do to work on my humility? What can I do? I'm going to give some pointers that I found. And it's interesting because Ben Franklin at the end says, imitate Socrates and Jesus. Whoa, that's a handful of things to do, right? Imitate Socrates and Jesus. Why did he pick these two people? Ben Franklin, right? He knew a thing or two. He was an amazing smart person. Now, when he asked to imitate Socrates, Socrates said something. Well, he said, and others copied, and now we know. Socrates said that one of the famous phrases that he says, "All I know is that I know nothing." Now think about it. This is Socrates. This is not Deborah. This is not students of philosophy. This is the man. Okay? So he says that he knew nothing. He says all that he knew is that he knew nothing. Talk about humility. And then he actually even went on to say, and that gives me an advantage over those who think they know something. So in the end, he knew that there was so much to learn, that in reality we knew nothing. But he said it's advantageous not to boast. See, it's advantageous under to undersell and overdeliver. And that's exactly what he did. He undersold himself, but boy, oh boy, did he overdeliver. And what he says is, and if you think about it, for those people that think and they say, oh, I've studied this and I know this, and do you guys know anybody that no matter what topic, no matter what you're talking about, they know, they know the subject, they know the answer? Sometimes we have a few of those friends, right? You can be talking about the new discovery of the new picture of the black hole, and they knew, oh, yeah, that's this. You start talking about cooking, and they know that recipe. You start talking about spiritism, they know all about it. And no matter what they know, you see, that's very, very dangerous. And perhaps you or I are one of those people, and we have to really wake up and think about Socrates. Because this man says that all he knew is that he knew nothing. And the more and more you study, the more you will know how much you don't know. See, when people say, oh, you've read the gospel 8 times or 12 times, you've read the same book, boy, you must know the subject. Who here has read the same book and found completely different meaning, found completely different writings? Because there are some people that have an amazing memory and they can memorize. Memorize is very different than knowing. You can memorize a book on how to ride a bike. If you never put your foot on a pedal, you do not know how to ride a bike. You can recite the most beautiful poem of all times. If you have no heart and soul and understand the meaning of each line and apply it, you are no poet, my friend. So memorizing something is an amazing ability. That is an ability to memorization. Knowing something is a completely different story. I'm very, um, you know, I'm very not shocked. I'm very surprised of how much memory some people have. I don't. I have to make little notes, and sometimes I get a little jealous. I'm like, oh, I wish I could just recite, chapter blah blah blah, this. I don't even know what chapter is what. But you know what? Be more concerned about knowing the content than the memory, because the content will travel with you. The memory, you know what? Eventually, all those photographic memories, they may fade, but what you know will not fade. It may appear to fade in a lifetime. We have illnesses that appear to fade, but they will remain with you for throughout all your eternity. So get to know. But Socrates says, all I know is that I know nothing. And that gives me an advantage over those who think they know something. So understand that we know so little about everything. Now think about Jesus. Jesus had a PhD in every single subject, yet he would like to be with the people, usually the humble. Jesus loved to be among those, the little children, the humble, people that he could even learn from. And he had really nothing to learn, but he enjoyed. He enjoyed sitting and listening. He didn't just speak, he also was a great listener. The second person is Jesus himself. Ben Franklin said, imitate Socrates and Jesus. Now we think about Jesus and the one man that comes to him and says, you are good. You are the good prophet. You are, and Jesus says, who do you call good? Only my Father is good. Now think about this. Think about how humble, how the humility that lived in this man's heart to believe and to truly say Jesus has never spoken a word that is not true. And for him to even say, only God is good. It's for him to recognize that he is a son of the Creator, not the Creator himself. That he still has a distance between Jesus and God himself is so far that is in many books actually. One is Memoirs of Father Jerome. Yes, an excellent book. And it says that there's more distance between us, even a monkey, like a little monkey us. Let's put it in those terms. And don't start controversy. You guys know what I'm talking about. But even in an animal form, to Jesus, there is more distance from Jesus to God than from us to Jesus. So you know, when Jesus says, then only God is good, he knows what he's talking about. So we know how great this God should be and how amazing that we can't understand him yet. And he asks of us to be humble. Now, how do we stop being so prideful? What are some of the things we can do to stop this? And here are some pointers. First, stop being the center of attention. Stop wanting to be the one that walks in the room and everybody has to look at them, or the one that is on the opposite, the one that has to come in late to bring attention to them. Because there's that false modesty, right? When someone says, oh, that person is so humble, look at them. They wait until everybody leaves so they can go and clean everything. But they're not really. They're doing something inside of somebody else so somebody else can tell everybody. So you got to be very careful, because sometimes what may appear to be isn't. Some people will say, oh, that person, they I don't know, they like to sit on the last row. Well, sometimes you may want to be in the last row because you want people to say that about you. So we have to be very careful. And that is being the center of attention. And perhaps sitting on the first row makes it easier because maybe you're someone that has to stand up and introduce someone all the time. That makes perfect sense. But if you need a reserved seat just because of your status, of who you are, and not because you got there first and you have no activity really that requires you to sit on the first row, then be careful, my friends. That is a step for your own fall. So stop being the center of attention. Give the attention to others. Allow others to have attention. Because Ben Franklin also said, you know what? Be great, but also give abundant credit to others. He asks you to bring people up. Give them credit. What do we do sometimes? Sometimes when someone does something wrong, we say it in public. When they do it right, we call them on the side. And that is the exact opposite that we should be doing. When somebody does something amazing, tell them, but tell them in public. Tell others. But when they do something wrong, bring them to the side and tell them, right? Some people don't accept their mistakes. So let's start accepting our mistakes. If we go back to my talk about the Alcoholics Anonymous, the very first step is accept that you have a problem. If you can't do that, then you can't tackle the problem. So accept your mistakes. Look at yourself and look at where you're being proud. Because you know what? If you live on the same planet that I am, most likely you have some proudful part that maybe you admit it and you already know which one it is. Maybe you don't admit it. Then go to someone who loves you and ask them, but then be ready to listen. Another thing, don't belittle ideas of others. Sometimes our pride is so juicy that we don't want to accept any different opinions. Some people do not, they're great at saying that they're always open, they're there to listen, just call them up and give them ideas. But in reality, they shut down anything that's not their own ideas. And that is a very big sign of pride. Start listening to others and allowing them to give you ideas, and don't belittle them. Because a lot of times we belittle ideas of people that we believe are less than ours. And that shows us loudly that we're thinking ourselves better than others. So don't belittle anybody's ideas. They might be the great geniuses of the world. Their ideas were belittled because people didn't believe, but they believed in themselves and themselves. Another thing is when, I guess sometimes we use joke, we use sarcasm, and that is a form of belittling others. That is a form, for every joke, there's some type of truth. Every time that we call somebody a name, a nickname, or when we say, you're so stupid, maybe it's time to take that back. Maybe it's time for us to not even joke about things like that and really allow people to see that they are also stars. And I think I'm trying to think of something here that with the gospel. It just wasn't time then for me to talk about it. But again, let's go back and think. Are you trying to be the center of attention all the time? Do you accept your own mistakes? Do you, when complimented, Yeah, that's a good one. When someone compliments you, do you fill yourself with pride? Do you become a presumptuous person? Very, very dangerous. And again, do you use joke? Do you use sarcasm? People say, there's a big controversy on clapping and saying, yay, you did a good job. We do that to our children. Yay, you did a good job. Well, there's two things. Some people say, oh, you might be filling someone with pride if at the end of a lecture you clap, or if at the end of a soccer game your child wins and you clap, or whatever it is you clap. Clapping is a sign of recognition that a job was well done. Now, if the other person takes that as, oh, I'm so prideful and I'm so amazing, look how much they love me, that is a work they need to do of themselves. This is something completely personal. And there's no, I'm very afraid of those who depend on the clapping, on the, you are great, you are amazing, because now they focus themselves by what they get and not by what they do. And the day that the claps are over, they may fall. They may fall very hard. So we have to think about that. I personally like to clap when I see something amazing. I'm a clapper. So I clap to my friends when they say, oh, Debbie, guess what? I lost 3 pounds. I was on that diet. I'm like, yay, good for you. That's what I do. So again, we should not judge others' actions. What we can't do is when you are complimented, when someone claps for you and they say, yay, you did a good job, don't feel yourself. Don't allow pride to take over you, but enjoy that moment and say, yes, I did a good job. I want to do it again. I want to do a good job again. And that is it. My friends, I hope that you had an amazing time during these 13 weeks. I hope that I could bring a little bit of what I've learned. Nothing here are things that I know. It's everything that I've learned. So let's think about that. We really know nothing. We learn things and we should really pass it on to others. You have been an amazing um, group, and I'll come back with Morning Coffee for the Soul the minute that I think of a different projects. If you have any projects that you believe might be good, let me know. I'd rather do small projects a few weeks at a time, and then we'll take it from there. Let me just say hello to we have Livia, we have Chris, we have Marilda here. Livia's here saying good morning. Good morning, Livia. Good morning, Tasia. Monica's here. Clage is here. Rosanna Lashley is here. She's going to be lecturing at our center tonight. We have Rose Neves. Talita is here with us. Bom dia. Good morning. We have Julie's. We have Marcela Queiroz. We have Marcela Gonzalez. We have Betsy Rodriguez. And we have, who else here? Um, we have others, and I can't see for some reason. So sorry, guys. Let me see if I can see, because some people are on the Cardiac Radio, some people are on my page. But well, if I didn't say your name, don't be sad, okay? I wish a wonderful Sunday to all, and thank you so much. Now look it up. Look it up at 13 Virtues of Ben Franklin. And if there's any changes you want to make, perhaps it's time for you to choose your own list of 13 virtues and start working on them every week and really analyze yourself, how you are, where you are, what you need to be better at that virtue, and then spread the word. It's a great project. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Sunday. Kisses.